In the silence of space, where the vastness stretches infinitely, humanity's place seems small. But when an unexplained signal breaks through the emptiness, Dr. Elena Vasquez, a quiet but brilliant xenolinguist, is the first to hear it, a desperate cry for help from a distant star system. Against the skepticism of her superiors, Elena's determination uncovers a story of survival from a dying alien race and a call that will thrust humanity into its first interstellar mission. With the fate of a fragile civilization at stake, Elena and her team will face obstacles far beyond anything they've known, proving that even in the darkest corners of the universe, human curiosity, compassion, and ingenuity can light the way. When the universe called for help Dr. Elena Vasquez stared at the endless stream of data flowing across her monitors, her coffee growing cold in the dim light of the Kepler Deep Space Communication Array. For 3 years, she had been monitoring the cosmic background radiation for any signs of intelligent life, and for 3 years, she had found nothing but stellar noise and the occasional pulsar beacon. The work had become routine, almost meditative in its predictability. The array station orbited Earth at a distance that kept it far from the planet's electromagnetic interference. Elena shared the facility with 12 other researchers, but as the station's only xenolinguist, she often felt isolated in her specialized work. While her colleagues studied stellar phenomena and cosmic events, Elena searched for patterns that might indicate intelligence among the stars. Marcus Chin knocked on her laboratory door, carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee. The station's chief engineer had become her closest friend during their long assignment, sharing her belief that humanity was not alone in the universe. His Asian features were tired but kind, and his presence always brought warmth to the sterile environment. "Still nothing?" Marcus asked, settling into a chair beside her workstation. Elena shook her head, accepting the fresh coffee gratefully. 3 years of listening to the universe, and all we hear is silence. Sometimes I wonder if we're really alone out here. The morning continued like countless others before it. Elena ran her standard analysis protocols, checking for artificial patterns in the cosmic noise. The work required patience and an eye for detail that few possessed. She had trained her mind to recognize the subtle differences between natural phenomena and potential signs of intelligence. To T10:47 a.m., everything changed at a spike in the data caught Elena's attention. Unlike the random fluctuations she was accustomed to seeing, this signal showed clear structure. The pattern repeated every 3.7 seconds with mathematical precision that natural phenomena rarely exhibited. Elena's heart began to race as she isolated the signal and ran it through her analysis programs. The signal was coming from outside the solar system, originating from a point in space roughly 47 light-years away. More importantly, it contained embedded mathematical sequences that were unmistakably artificial. Prime numbers, geometric ratios, and physical constants were woven into the transmission in a way that could only be intentional. Elena spent the next 4 hours analyzing the signal, her excitement growing with each discovery. The transmission was not just artificial, it was a message. Hidden within a mathematical framework were patterns that suggested urgency, distress, and a desperate plea for assistance. Someone, somewhere among the stars, was calling for help. Director Harrison was less impressed when Elena presented her findings to the station's command staff. The 60-year-old administrator had spent his career managing deep space facilities, and he had learned to be skeptical of extraordinary claims. His gray hair and weathered face reflected decades of dealing with false alarms and equipment malfunctions. "Dr. Vasquez, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but we need to consider more mundane explanations," Harrison said, reviewing Elena's data on his tablet. Equipment malfunction, stellar interference, or even solar system debris could account for these patterns. Elena had anticipated this reaction. "Sir, I've run every diagnostic test we have. The equipment is functioning perfectly. The signal is clearly artificial and contains embedded mathematical concepts that suggest intelligence." "Mathematical concepts that you interpret as intelligence," Harrison corrected. "We've been monitoring space for decades. Doctor, if there was intelligent life out there, don't you think we would have detected it by now?" The meeting continued for another hour, with Elena presenting evidence and Harrison raising objections. The other staff members remained neutral, unwilling to support either position without more conclusive proof. In the end, Harrison ordered Elena to continue monitoring the signal, but forbade her from reporting it to Earth Command until they had more definitive evidence. That evening, Elena sat alone in her quarters, staring at the decoded message that had consumed her thoughts for the entire day. The transmission was unlike anything in human experience, but its meaning was becoming clearer with each analysis. The mathematical sequences described a star system in distress, a civilization facing extinction, and a desperate hope that someone, somewhere, might hear their call for help. Marcus found her there 3 hours later, still working on the translation. "Elena, you need to rest. You've been at this for 16 hours straight." "I can't rest," Elena replied, her voice hoarse with exhaustion. "Marcus, this is real. There's an entire civilization out there, and they're dying. They sent this message, hoping someone would hear them, and we're the only ones who have." Marcus studied the data on Elena's screen, his engineering mind processing the mathematical structures. "Even if you're right, what can we do? This signal is 47 years old. Whatever was happening to them is probably over by now." Elena shook her head. "The signal is continuous, Marcus. It's not a recording, it's a live transmission. They're still out there, still calling for help. And according to my analysis, they don't have much time left." The next morning, Elena made a decision that would change the course of human history. Despite Director Harrison's orders, she transmitted her findings to Earth Command, along with a detailed analysis of the alien message. The report included her translation of the mathematical sequences, the coordinates of the signal's origin, and her professional assessment that humanity had made first contact with an intelligent alien species. The response from Earth was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, Elena's quiet research station was flooded with communications from scientists, government officials, and military commanders. The world's leading experts in mathematics, linguistics, and astrophysics reviewed her work, and their consensus was unanimous. The signal was genuine. Dr. Sarah Kim, the world's foremost expert in xenolinguistics, arrived at the station within 48 hours. Her analysis confirmed Elena's findings and added new layers of understanding to the alien message. The transmission described a star system where the primary sun was undergoing premature stellar evolution, flooding the system with deadly radiation. The inhabitants, calling themselves the Zarathi, were a crystalline-based life form that had evolved in a low-radiation environment. "The Zarathi are trying to tell us about their biology," Dr. Kim explained during a video conference with Earth Command. "They're silicon-based, but their crystalline structures are extremely sensitive to high-energy radiation. Their star is killing them slowly, and they don't have the technology to protect themselves or evacuate their world." General Patricia Hayes, the commander of Earth's Deep Space Defense Force, studied the translation with military precision. "Doctor, what exactly are they asking us to do? We don't have interstellar travel capability." Elena had been working on this question for days. "They're not asking us to come to them, General. They're asking us to answer. To let them know that someone has heard their message. They've been broadcasting for nearly 50 years, and they're starting to lose hope." The debate that followed consumed the next week. Government officials argued about the implications of contact with an alien species. Scientists demanded more time to study the signal. Military commanders worried about potential security threats. But Elena had made her decision that on a quiet Tuesday morning, while the bureaucrats continued their discussions, Elena composed humanity's first intentional message to an alien civilization. The transmission was simple but profound, a mathematical acknowledgement of the Zarathi distress call, followed by a message of hope and solidarity. Earth had heard their call, and humanity was listening. The response came 18 hours later, traveling across 47 light-years at the speed of light. The Zarathi signal changed, becoming more complex and urgent. They had received humanity's message, and their reply was filled with gratitude and desperate hope. For the first time in their history, the Zarathi knew they were not alone in the universe. But their situation was deteriorating rapidly. The stellar radiation was increasing, and their crystalline biology was beginning to fail. They had perhaps 5 years before their entire civilization would be extinct. The Zarathi were not asking for rescue. They knew such a thing was impossible across interstellar distances. They were asking for something much more precious, to be remembered, to know that their existence had been acknowledged by another intelligent species. Elena worked tirelessly to establish a more complex communication protocol with the Zarathi. Over the following months, she learned about their culture, their history, and their desperate situation. The Zarathi had been a peaceful species for thousands of years, developing advanced crystal technology and living in harmony with their environment. But they had never needed to develop space travel or stellar engineering, skills that might have saved them now. The implications of the Zarathi situation weighed heavily on Elena's mind. Humanity had the theoretical knowledge to help them: stellar engineering concepts, radiation shielding technology, even the basic principles of space travel. But Earth's technology was still primitive compared to what would be needed for an interstellar rescue mission. That was when Elena made her second decision that would change everything. During a private communication with the Zarathi, she began sharing human scientific knowledge. Starting with basic concepts and gradually building to more advanced theories, Elena began teaching the Zarathi about human approaches to stellar engineering and radiation protection. The Zarathi were quick learners, and their crystal technology proved remarkably adaptable to human concepts. Within months, they had begun constructing primitive radiation shields using techniques adapted from human designs. But it was clear that their efforts alone would not be enough. They needed direct assistance, and that would require humanity to develop capabilities that had never existed before. Elena's communication with the Zarathi had not gone unnoticed by Earth Command. When her unauthorized technology transfer was discovered, the response was swift and angry. Director Harrison accused her of violating first contact protocols and potentially endangering Earth security. But Elena had allies now, including Dr. Kim and several influential scientists who supported her actions. The debate that followed split the scientific community and captured the attention of the entire world. For the first time in human history, the species was faced with a clear moral choice about its place in the universe. The Zarathi were dying, and humanity had the knowledge to help them. But helping would require resources, risk, and a commitment to interstellar cooperation that had never been attempted before. Elena stood before the United Nations General Assembly, speaking to representatives from every nation on Earth. Her words were simple but powerful. We have received a call for help from across the stars. We have the knowledge to answer that call. The question is not whether we can help the Zarathi. The question is whether we will choose to be the kind of species that helps. The vote was close, but humanity chose to act. Earth's greatest minds and resources were focused on a single unprecedented goal: the development of humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. The project would require new technologies, international cooperation on an unprecedented scale, and a level of commitment that would test the limits of human determination. Elena had started the day as a lonely scientist monitoring cosmic background radiation. She ended it as the person who had opened the door to humanity's future among the stars. The universe had called for help, and humanity had answered. Now came the hard part, turning that answer into action. Humanity's first interstellar rescue, the transformation of human civilization, began with a simple declaration from the United Nations. Earth will not stand by while another intelligent species faces extinction. Within 6 months of Elena's initial contact with the Zarathi, the planet's greatest minds were working on humanity's most ambitious project ever attempted: the construction of an interstellar rescue vessel. Dr. Elena Vasquez found herself at the center of a global effort that dwarfed every previous human achievement. The Kepler Deep Space Communication Array had been expanded into a massive international facility, with scientists and engineers from every nation contributing their expertise to the project. Elena's role had evolved from translator to liaison, maintaining constant communication with the Zarathi as Earth prepared for the impossible. The technical challenges were staggering. Humanity's fastest spacecraft could barely reach the outer planets of the solar system. The Zarathi homeworld was 47 light-years away, a distance that would require centuries to cross with conventional technology. But human ingenuity had a way of finding solutions to impossible problems. Dr. James Rodriguez, a brilliant physicist from the European Space Agency, proposed a radical solution: a hybrid propulsion system that combined human fusion technology with Zarathi crystal energy manipulation. Through Elena's communications, the Zarathi had shared their understanding of crystal-based energy systems, technology that could amplify and focus power in ways that human science had never imagined. The Zarathi crystals can channel and multiply energy fields, Dr. Rodriguez explained during a project briefing. If we can adapt their technology to our fusion drives, we might be able to achieve a significant fraction of light speed. The international team worked around the clock, sharing knowledge and resources in a display of cooperation that surprised even the most optimistic observers. The project became known as the Aurora Mission, named for the beautiful light displays that the Zarathi had described as their planet's most treasured natural phenomenon. Captain Sarah Mitchell was chosen to lead the Aurora Mission crew. A veteran of deep space exploration, with 15 years of experience commanding long-range vessels, she had volunteered for the mission, knowing that she might never return to Earth. Her calm leadership and exceptional piloting skills made her the ideal choice for humanity's first interstellar journey. The Aurora itself was a marvel of human engineering enhanced by Zarathi knowledge. The vessel stretched nearly a kilometer in length, with massive crystal arrays integrated into its hull that could focus and amplify the energy from its fusion cores. The ship's design incorporated redundant systems, advanced life support, and living quarters designed to sustain a crew of 12 for the multi-year journey to the Zarathi system. Elena was selected as the mission's primary xenolinguist and communications specialist. Her deep understanding of Zarathi culture and her established relationship with their leadership made her indispensable to the mission's success. She had spent months learning about Zarathi society, their crystalline biology, and their desperate situation. The Zarathi had shared disturbing news during the months of preparation. Their star's radiation output was increasing faster than predicted, and their makeshift shields were failing. The crystalline structures that formed their bodies were beginning to deteriorate, and their population was declining rapidly. They had perhaps 2 years before their entire civilization would be extinct. Dr. James Rodriguez joined the mission as the chief science officer and medical specialist. His expertise in both human and Zarathi biology would be crucial for understanding how to help the crystalline beings. The challenge was unprecedented. How do you provide medical assistance to a species whose biology is based on living crystal rather than organic compounds? The Aurora launched on a Tuesday morning, watched by billions of people around the world. The vessel's crystal arrays glowed with ethereal light as it accelerated beyond the solar system, achieving speeds that no human spacecraft had ever reached. The journey to the Zarathi system would take 18 months, pushing the limits of both human endurance and technology. During the long journey, Elena maintained constant communication with the Zarathi. Their messages grew more desperate as their situation deteriorated. The radiation from their dying star was stripping away their planet's atmosphere, and their crystalline cities were beginning to crack and crumble. The Zarathi had never developed space travel, having evolved on a world where their needs were met by their planet's natural crystal formations. Elena learned about Zarathi culture during those long months in space. They were a peaceful species that had never known war, having developed a collective consciousness that made conflict impossible. Their society was based on harmony and cooperation, with each individual contributing their unique abilities to the greater good of their civilization. The Zarathi had developed remarkable crystal technology over their millennia of existence. Their cities were grown rather than built, with living crystals that could adapt and respond to their inhabitants' needs. They had achieved a sustainable civilization that had lasted for thousands of years, but they had never needed to develop the kind of aggressive, exploratory technology the humans had created. They're everything we could become, Elena told Captain Mitchell during one of their regular briefings. They achieved perfect harmony with their environment, perfect cooperation among their people. but they never developed the defensive technologies they needed when their star began to die. The Aurora's crew prepared for their arrival by studying everything the Zarafi had shared about their world and their biology. Dr. Rodriguez worked tirelessly to understand how human medical technology might be adapted to help crystalline beings. The challenges were enormous. How do you treat a species whose bodies are made of living silicon and whose consciousness exists in crystal matrices? When the Aurora finally arrived at the Zarafi system, the crew was stunned by what they found. The Zarafi homeworld was a planet of incredible beauty, with massive crystal formations that reached toward the sky like frozen lightning. But the beauty was marred by the obvious signs of destruction. The planet's atmosphere was thin and poisonous, and many of the crystal cities showed signs of radiation damage. The Zarafi greeted the Aurora with a display of lights that pulsed across their entire planet. Despite their desperate situation, they had maintained their hope and their gratitude for humanity's response to their call for help. Elena established communication with the Zarafi leadership, including their primary spokesman, a being she had come to know as Ambassador Kaih. Through the translation systems they had developed, Kaih welcomed the human crew with words that moved Elena to tears. "You have traveled between the stars to help strangers. Your species honors life itself with this action." The crew quickly assessed the situation and confirmed their worst fears. The Zarafi star was indeed dying, flooding the system with radiation that was lethal to the crystalline beings. The planet's magnetic field was failing, and their makeshift shields were crumbling. The Zarafi had perhaps 6 months before their world became completely uninhabitable. Captain Mitchell called an emergency meeting of the Aurora crew. "We have 6 months to save an entire civilization. The question is, how do we move 8 million crystal beings to safety when we don't have the ships or the technology to evacuate them?" Elena had been thinking about this problem for months. "We don't evacuate them. We save their world." Dr. Rodriguez looked skeptical. "Elena, we're talking about stellar engineering on a scale that humans have never attempted. We'd need to either move their planet or somehow shield it from their star's radiation. The Zarafi have crystal technology that can manipulate energy fields," Elena explained. "We have fusion technology that can generate enormous amounts of power. If we can combine our capabilities, we might be able to create a planetary shield that could protect their world." The next 6 months tested the limits of human ingenuity and Zarafi cooperation. Working together, the two species developed a network of massive crystal arrays that could be powered by fusion reactors. The system would create an energy field around the entire planet, deflecting the deadly radiation while allowing visible light to pass through. The construction process required unprecedented cooperation between the two species. Human engineers worked alongside Zarafi crystal shapers, combining their technologies in ways that neither species could have achieved alone. The work was dangerous and exhausting, but both species were driven by the knowledge that failure meant extinction for the Zarafi. Elena served as the primary coordinator between the two species, translating not just language, but entire concepts of technology and cooperation. She watched as humans and Zarafi learned to work together, sharing knowledge and capabilities in a display of interspecies cooperation that gave her hope for the future of both civilizations. The planetary shield was activated just as the Zarafi star entered its most dangerous phase. The crystal arrays glowed with brilliant light as they deflected the deadly radiation, creating a protective barrier around the planet. For the first time in years, the Zarafi world was safe from the killing radiation of their dying star. But the success of the shield was just the beginning. The Zarafi, grateful for humanity's assistance, began sharing their advanced crystal technology with their rescuers. The exchange of knowledge between the two species created possibilities that neither had imagined. Human fusion technology, enhanced by Zarafi crystal manipulation, could revolutionize space travel. Zarafi crystal healing techniques could advance human medicine by centuries. Captain Mitchell stood on the Aurora's observation deck, watching the lights of the planetary shield dance across the Zarafi world. "We came here to save them, but I think they might end up saving us too." Elena nodded, thinking about the knowledge and friendship that had grown between the two species. This is just the beginning. We've proven that different species can work together, that intelligence and cooperation can overcome any challenge. The Aurora prepared for its return journey to Earth, carrying with it representatives from the Zarathi civilization and samples of their crystal technology. The mission had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams, but Elena knew that their actions had changed both species forever. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and the Zarathi had learned that there were other intelligent beings who valued life and cooperation. As the Aurora left the Zarathi system, Elena received a final message from Ambassador KH. Your species has shown us the true meaning of compassion. We will never forget that humanity answered our call for help. The journey back to Earth took 18 months, during which Elena and the crew worked to prepare humanity for the changes that were coming. The partnership with the Zarathi would transform human civilization, bringing new technologies and new perspectives on life and cooperation. But it would also bring new challenges and new responsibilities. Elena had started as a lonely scientist monitoring cosmic background radiation. She was returning to Earth as the architect of humanity's first interstellar alliance, carrying with her the knowledge and friendship of an entire alien civilization. The universe had called for help, humanity had answered, and both species had been transformed by the experience. The birth of a galactic brotherhood, the Aurora's return to Earth, marked the beginning of a new age for humanity. The ship arrived carrying not just samples of Zarathi crystal technology, but 3 Zarathi ambassadors who had volunteered to establish permanent diplomatic relations with Earth. The crystalline beings, each standing nearly 3 meters tall and glowing with an inner light, represented the first aliens to visit human space. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the Luna Station, watching as the Aurora docked with the facility. The past 3 years had transformed her from a lonely xenolinguist into humanity's foremost expert on interspecies relations. Her translation work had become a foundation for a new diplomatic protocol that would guide humanity's interactions with alien civilizations. Ambassador Kaiti H., the Zarathi diplomat she had communicated with for so long, was among the visitors. Through the translation systems they had developed, he expressed his gratitude for humanity's role in saving his people. The Zarathi will never forget that when we called into the darkness, humanity answered with light. The integration of Zarathi crystal technology into human civilization proceeded rapidly. The crystalline energy manipulation systems revolutionized Earth's power infrastructure, providing clean, abundant energy that could be grown and shaped rather than built. Human cities began incorporating living crystal structures that could adapt to their inhabitants' needs and repair themselves when damaged. But the technological exchange brought unexpected benefits for both species. Human mechanical engineering enhanced Zarathi crystal technology, creating hybrid systems that surpassed anything either species had achieved alone. The Zarathi learned to incorporate human concepts of redundancy and modularity into their crystal formations, making their technology more resilient and adaptable. Elena worked closely with the Zarathi ambassadors, helping them understand human culture while learning more about their collective consciousness society. The Zarathi had difficulty comprehending human concepts of individual competition and conflict, just as humans struggled to understand a species that had never known war or serious disagreement. Your species fascinates us, Ambassador Kaiti H. explained during one of their regular meetings. You have achieved so much through individual effort and competition, yet you came together to save us without any hope of reward. How do you reconcile these contradictions? Elena had been thinking about this question for months. I think that's what makes humanity unique. We compete with each other, but we also cooperate when it matters. We're individuals, but we're also part of something larger. The partnership between humans and Zarathi was barely 2 years old when both species received a message that would test their newfound alliance. The signal came from the edge of the galaxy, transmitted by an automated probe that had been traveling through space for thousands of years. The message was brief but terrifying. The consortium approaches. Biological contamination detected. Sterilization protocol initiated. Ambassador Kaiti H's crystalline form flickered with patterns of fear when Elena showed him the translated message. The consortium, he whispered, we had hoped they would never find us. Elena felt a chill of apprehension. What is the consortium? An ancient machine intelligence that has been cleansing the galaxy of biological life for millions of years, KTH explained. They view organic and crystalline life as a contamination that must be eliminated. We thought we had escaped them when we fled to this region of space. The implications of KTH's revelation were staggering. Earth's first contact with alien life had inadvertently attracted the attention of a machine intelligence dedicated to destroying all biological existence. The partnership between humans and Zarathi had been detected by automated probes, marking both species as targets for extermination. Elena immediately contacted Earth Command, relaying the urgent warning from the Zarathi. The response was swift and decisive. Admiral Rebecca Torres, the commander of Earth's Integrated Defense Forces, called an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council. The message was clear. Humanity and its alien allies were about to face an enemy that had been perfecting the art of genocide for millions of years. The consortium's advance forces arrived at the edge of the solar system 6 months later. The alien machines were unlike anything human science had encountered, vast geometric structures that seemed to bend space around them. Their ships were built for one purpose, the complete elimination of biological life from the galaxy. Elena worked frantically to establish communication with the consortium, hoping to find some way to negotiate or reason with the machine intelligence. But the consortium's response was always the same: biological contamination detected. Sterilization protocol initiated. No communication possible. The first attacks came without warning. Consortium forces struck the outer planets with weapons that could sterilize entire worlds in minutes. The machines showed no interest in conquest or resources. They simply eliminated all traces of biological life and moved on to the next target. Admiral Torres coordinated the defense of Earth and the Zarathi homeworld, utilizing both human military technology and Zarathi crystal systems. The combined fleets represented the best of both species. Human spacecraft enhanced with Zarathi crystal arrays and Zarathi crystal ships powered by human fusion technology, but the early battles were disasters. The consortium forces outnumbered the human Zarathi alliance by hundreds to one, and their technology was millions of years more advanced. Ships that had taken months to build were destroyed in seconds by weapons that the Allies barely understood. Elena watched the battle reports with growing despair. The consortium was advancing steadily through the outer solar system, sterilizing everything in their path. Mars fell first, its colonies eliminated in a matter of hours. The Jupiter system lasted barely a day before the consortium's sterilization beams reduced its moons to lifeless rock. It was during the defense of Saturn that Elena made a discovery that would change everything. While analyzing consortium communications, she noticed something strange in their command protocols. The machines were not operating independently. They were receiving orders from a central intelligence that coordinated their actions across the galaxy. They're not just machines, Elena explained to Admiral Torres during an emergency briefing. They're a network, all connected to a central command system. If we can disrupt their communications, we might be able to create chaos in their ranks. The plan that emerged was desperate but brilliant. Using Elena's understanding of consortium communication protocols, combined with Zarathi crystal technology and human electronic warfare capabilities, the Allies developed a virus that could infiltrate the machine network. The virus would not destroy the consortium forces, but it would sever their connection to the central intelligence, leaving them confused and uncoordinated. The attack was launched during the Battle of Earth's Moon as consortium forces prepared for the final assault on humanity's homeworld. Elena and a team of human and Zarathi specialists transmitted the virus directly into the consortium command network, using captured alien technology to ensure the signal would penetrate their defenses. The effect was immediate and devastating. Consortium forces that had been advancing in perfect coordination suddenly began attacking each other. Ships that had been following complex battle plans started moving in random directions. The machine intelligence that had conquered galaxies was reduced to chaos and confusion, but the virus was only a temporary solution. The Central Intelligence would eventually adapt and restore communication with its forces. The Allies had perhaps hours before the consortium regained their coordination and resumed their assault. Admiral Torres made the decision that would define the future of both species. Instead of using the confusion to retreat, she ordered a full offensive against the consortium forces. Human and Zarathi ships attacked with everything they had, targeting the enemy's most vital systems while their defenses were down. The battle was fierce and costly. Elena watched from the command center as ships from both species threw themselves against the consortium forces, sacrificing themselves to protect their homeworlds. The courage displayed by both humans and Zarathi was extraordinary, proving that the alliance between the two species was stronger than any external threat. The turning point came when Captain Mitchell, now commanding the Aurora II, led a desperate assault on the consortium's primary command ship. Using a combination of human kamikaze tactics and Zarathi crystal technology, her crew managed to destroy the vessel that was coordinating the entire invasion force. With their command structure destroyed and their communication network compromised, the consortium forces began to retreat. The machine intelligence that had conquered countless civilizations was forced to withdraw from the Sol system, leaving behind the wreckage of their first major defeat in millions of years. Elena stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching as the last consortium ships disappeared into the darkness of space. The battle had been won, but the cost had been enormous. Both species had lost thousands of ships and hundreds of thousands of lives defending their freedom. Ambassador Kaidi H. approached her, his crystalline form flickering with patterns of both sorrow and hope. Many have died today, but their sacrifice has given life to something greater. The consortium has been defeated, but more importantly, two species have proven that cooperation is stronger than conquest. In the aftermath of the battle, Elena helped establish the Galactic Defense Alliance, a formal partnership between humanity and the Zarathi dedicated to protecting biological life throughout the galaxy. The alliance would grow over the coming years as other species learned that it was possible to stand against the consortium and win. The victory had proved that organic and crystalline life could not only survive but thrive when different species worked together. Human ingenuity and determination, combined with Zarathi wisdom and crystal technology, had created something greater than either species could have achieved alone. Elena had started her journey as a lonely scientist listening to cosmic background radiation. She was now the architect of humanity's first interstellar alliance and the co-founder of a galactic defense network. Her decision to answer the Zarathi distress call had not only saved an alien civilization, but had also transformed humanity from an isolated species into a galactic power. The universe had called for help, and humanity had answered. In doing so, they had discovered that the greatest strength came not from conquest or dominance, but from cooperation and mutual respect. The Galactic Defense Alliance would stand as a testament to the power of unity among different species, proving that even the most ancient and powerful enemies could be defeated when life stood together against the darkness. Years later, Elena would look back on that first distress signal from the Zarathi as the moment humanity truly joined the galactic community. What had started as one person's decision to answer a call for help had grown into an alliance that spanned star systems and united dozens of species against the threat of extinction. The consortium still existed, lurking in the dark spaces between galaxies, but they no longer held absolute dominion over biological life. The Galactic Defense Alliance had proven that organic beings could fight back, could adapt, and could win. More importantly, they had shown that the universe was vast enough for all forms of life to flourish. Elena stood in the crystal gardens of New Zarathi, the colony world that had been established in the Sol system as a symbol of the human-Zarathi partnership. Around her, crystal trees grew alongside earth flowers, their combined beauty representing the harmony that was possible when different forms of life worked together. Ambassador Kaiti H. joined her in the garden, his crystalline form now familiar and comforting after years of friendship. "Do you ever regret answering our call?" he asked. Elena smiled, thinking of all the challenges and triumphs that had followed that first decision to transmit humanity's response to the Zarathi distress signal. "Never," she replied. "You taught us that we weren't alone in the universe. But more than that, you taught us who we could become when we choose to help rather than conquer. The stars above them twinkled with the lights of 100 worlds where biological life flourished under the protection of the Alliance. Each light represented a species that had been saved, a civilization that had been preserved, a future that had been secured through cooperation and mutual aid. Elena had answered one distress call, and in doing so had helped create a galaxy where no species would ever have to face extinction alone again. The universe had called for help, and humanity had not only answered but had taught others to answer as well in the end. That was humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy, not their technology or their military might, but their willingness to help strangers across the vast darkness of space. It was a lesson that would echo through the stars for generations to come, ensuring that the light of civilization would never be extinguished as long as there were those willing to answer when the universe called for help.